Hey everybody! The purpose of this video is to get you some solutions to this homework that we partially talked about in class today, but I wanted to make sure that if you weren't in class you could still see how we work the problems. The first thing was converting 10 kilometers into miles. Okay, so we're going to start with that. So 10 kilometers, and we want to have miles come out over here. Now remember, miles is over 1, 10 kilometers is over 1. So what we're going to have to do is, as we've been talking about, get some kind of a conversion fraction to knock out kilometers and end up with miles. So since we want this and we want to get rid of that, miles has to go into your numerator and kilometers has to go into your denominator, because that way the units will agree and you'll end up getting the beautiful removal, the division, getting a 1 as a quotient there. The other question is just you have to know your conversion factor. And I know we talked about it in class and some of us had different ones. The one I use is just that every 5 kilometers is about 3.1 miles. Only because I used to run road races a lot, and that's kind of the number that just pops up. So if you have this, 10 times 3.1 miles, that's going to give you 31 miles. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 times 1 equals 5. So you have 31 miles over 5. Now, again, unit-wise, in class, we've talked about breaking out the units and the number part. So you have 31 divided by 5, and then you have miles per 1, or just miles. And then he's got to divide 31 by 5, which is going to be 6.2. 6.2 miles. So that's your conversion for 10 kilometers to miles. Using the conversion that I used. You can use any conversion you want. I asked you, you're going to have to go to Google and you're going to have to figure out what the conversion you're going to use is. So it might not have been that. I think one of your students, one of your classmates said 6/10 of a mile is a kilometer or something along those lines. They use that conversion. It's all good. It all works. The important thing is the unit agreement. We don't have to worry about 2 in this video, I don't think, because honestly, you can use the exact same conversion as we talked about in class. Since you're going from miles to kilometers, you would just invert this fraction, because what you're keeping versus what you're getting rid of. So, no need to do number 2, I don't think. I think number 2 is pretty self-explanatory. 3, though, this was a fun one to do in class. If I have a 15-30 seconds drill bit, if I have a 15-30 seconds inch drill drill bit, which metric drill is closest in diameter? I'm going to do this one in the video a little bit different than we did in class. I'm not gonna change that to a decimal, although somebody told me to do that in class. They said, please change it to a decimal. I said, you know what, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna leave it just like that. I'm gonna leave it like that fraction. I'm gonna leave it like that fraction, because that's 15 inches divided by 32. It's literally what that is. And if you so we need to get this over into millimeters. So we clearly need something that converts inches to millimeters. Okay? And the one we used in class was one of these ones that I have in my head from years of doing work outside, is that 1 inch, excuse me, 1 inch is 25.4 millimeters. Okay? Now in class, we had changed this to a decimal. We're going to see what happens now if you don't. Okay, so first of all, the units agree, which is very nice. So we end up with a division here and a division here. And now we have to do 15 times 25.4 over 32. So you might look at this and be like, this is not what we did in class. That's correct. We did that division first and then multiplied. But nobody said we had to. We could have also done 15 times 25.4. 15 times 25.4. And that will give you 381 up top. And then if you do 381 divided by 32, you end up with, whoops. Oh, I didn't hit divided by, I hit decimal point. Excuse me. Hang on 1 second. You get, I keep hitting the wrong numbers, 32. You get 11.7. 11.7 11.7, I forgot the 0.4. Hang on one second. No, you don't. I keep typing things wrong because I'm working too fast. 11.9. Which should look familiar to you from class because that's exactly what we got. Because this part is equal to the decimal that we got in class. So 11.9 millimeters, which to the closest millimeter would be 12. So if you needed a 15-30 seconds hole drilled, a 12 millimeter bit would get you the closest to a 15/16 or 15-30 seconds. Okay. Good so far? Good so far. Okay, so this is the, excuse me, I just wolfed down my lunch. I apologize, I'm choking on a piece of veggie bacon. If anybody finds this video later and it's just, if I go down, call 911. Okay, last one was, these are my fun questions. I think you may have thought they sucked, but the first one was, I shouldn't have just erased that, but I did. So whenever you multiply by a conversion fraction, what you're doing is you're relabeling the unit you're starting with into a different set of units to come out the other end, but they're still equal to each other, right? They're still equal to each other. They're still the same, they measure the same thing. If you call it 3 feet here and 1 yard here, that's the same thing. So if you convert 3 feet into yards, you multiply it by a conversion, but you don't change the value of it, the absolute like quantity of the unit. So what I was looking for here was what number does that conversion fraction have to actually equal? And the only number that I can think of, if you in mathematics, if you take a number and multiply it by something and you get the same number again, is 1. Is 1. So that was what I was looking for in number 4. Now in number 5, I asked you explain why it's equal to 1. And here's what we did in class, and I think it made sense, I think. I used the example 12 inches. Well, we'll start with this. 12 inches equals 1 foot. I want to bring a little bit of algebra into this. 12 inches equals 1 foot. So we started with that. Okay. Now we did this 2 different ways. I'm going to do it one way here on the board. I'm going to let you do it the other way if you need to understand why it's clear. What we did was we divided both sides of this. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about what this means. 12 inches equals 1 foot. This is like a balance scale. 12 inches is over here and 1 foot is over here. I know that they're lengths and not weights, but it operates the same way for lengths, weights, temperatures, whatever, anything you're measuring in the world. 12 inches, 1 foot. Okay. If you change something over here, you have to change the thing that's over here exactly the same. For example, if you cut this in half over here, so 12 inches becomes 6 inches, then you'd have to cut this in half over here. So 1 foot becomes half a foot. If you add 2 inches to this side to make 14 inches, you'd have to add 2 inches to this side, which 2 inches would be 1/6 of a foot. So you'd have 1 1/6 feet. So what's neat about equations, and we're going to talk about more about this in the back half of this course, if you have this true, and think of it like a scale, if you change one bin on the scale, you have to change the other bin the same way. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to extend that logic. I'm going to divide this by 1 foot. Now we've already discussed what happens if you do this. If you divide 1 foot by itself, you're going to get 1. You divide anything by itself except 0, you're going to get 1. But that means I have to divide this by 1 foot as well. What's 12 inches divided by 1 foot? It's 1. It's 1. This is just a mathematical explanation as to why. Whenever you multiply by those fractions, you're not changing the value of anything. You're just converting the units. They still have the same value because 12 inches is 1 foot. So if you divide 12 inches by 1 foot, you're dividing one thing by itself, which equals 1. That's all I was after. That's all I was looking after. So hopefully that cleared things up a little bit. We'll see you in class.